All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. Today we're going to touch a little bit on commercial, a little intro to commercial, sale of business. So if you guys have the confidence to go out and try something new today, right? Instead of just our regular resale over and over again. So has anybody ever listed a sale of business before? Anything you guys would like to touch on specifically? Any questions you have for me? Because I can always gear the training towards that, or I can just go over my material.
I did like a exclusive, like dental clinic,
Awesome.
yeah, but not on MLS because they don't want on MLS. So it's basically, we signed the contract and
Yeah.
it goes exclusive.
Yeah. So the thing with sale of businesses, we do our regular resale residential every single day. And not that it's boring. I mean, there's always like, new and exciting homes to see, but the actual documentation, the clauses we do are generally the same. We have, our inspection in there, we have our financing in there. But when it comes to sale of business, there are a whole lot new exciting things. I have an example APS I'll show you guys with some clauses and whatnot. So if you notice in the kits, I haven't put kits in there on purpose for sale of business because everyone is so different. I want you guys to definitely take that opportunity to talk and make sure that you're thinking through the things that you need for that sale of business, right? Like if you're selling a convenience store, right? You might need to, if you're purchasing it for your client, I should say, you might need to include clauses such as approval from the OLG, because there might be a lottery station there, right? Things like that are like a liquor license where you have to be approved and submit your criminal record to OLG. So once that approval comes through, then you can continue to have the lottery in that store. So if your client's purchasing a convenience store and banking on that source of income and they don't get approved, it could be a problem. So you definitely have to think of all the different things in the sale of business. And it gets a little tricky because we have to sort of put ourselves into businesses that we don't do on a regular basis. So I often talk about, when I first became a realtor, I started taking over a lot of automotive from my father in the West End. And that was a big learning curve because I basically know how to check my oil, fill my windshield washer, and that's it. So I had to learn about the different environmental that went along with it. But not only that, the zoning, what was allowed, this one would allow painting, but this one wouldn't allow, auto body repair, and this one won't allow transmissions being done. So it's a lot of different things. I had to learn about hoists, there's hoists included and this, that, and the other. So you kind of have to throw yourself into that business, every time you get a business, for instance, say you get a restaurant, you have to sit down and you have to think about what the needs of that client is, whether you're on the listing side or on the purchasing side, right? Sometimes a Google search can help you. Sometimes asking other realtors, coming to me and having a conversation, we can come and think of questions that you need for that sale or purchase. So I'm just going to share my screen and I'm going to go into some of the documents I have so we can go over, whoopsie, what did I do here? No. Okay, screen sharing has stopped. Okay, good. I'll go back into my share now. What's here? There we go. Okay, so we're gonna go into listing a business. We'll start reviewing this. So the first thing you want to know is the reasons for the sale. Just like we ask our clients motivation for residential resale, so we know sort of their urgency when they need to move. It's more important in sale of business, you ask them their motivation to sell. Why have they decided to sell their business? Because a lot of buyers will ask what the motivation is. Very often, if you're purchasing a restaurant off of somebody who has the sale of business off, they're concerned that maybe business isn't good, sales haven't been good, the restaurant popularity is not so good. So you want to know what their motivation is so you can explain to the others. So retirement, partnership disputes, illness or death, God forbid, being overworked, boredom, change of pace. These are all things that won't necessarily scare away your buyers. And if you can explain to them that's the motivation of your client, oh, he's owned the restaurant for 40 years and they just simply want to retire, but the business is healthy, you have to make it look good on MLS, right? So you're going to want to know the motivation for sure. Okay. Some owners consider selling the business when it's not profitable, but this can make it harder to attract buyers, obviously. Consider the business's ability to sell, its readiness, and your own timing. So there are many attributes that can make the business appear more attractive, including increasing profits. So if you can show that year over year, consistent income figures. So during COVID, this was really important because a lot of businesses took a big hit. So if you looked on MLS for sale of business during COVID times, consistent income was a big thing, a big, huge thing, because so many businesses were losing and failing. A lot of times for sale of business and commercial in MLS, when you were asking for the financials, they were saying, well, we know the last 2 years were COVID, right? Nobody wanted to share their financials during that time. A strong customer base. So we talk about the popularity of the business that you're selling, and a major contract that spans several years. So we're looking at the strength of their lease in the premises. Okay. This all adds value to the business that you're selling, right? So you want to ask them for their financials for the last couple of years. You want to know the profit they're making, and you're going to want to know the strength of their lease, and you're going to want to check the area to see if any similar businesses are up for sale. So you're competitive, but you're still maximizing. Sometimes it can be tricky to put a price tag on that sale of business. Very often your clients will have a number in their head that they want to clear, but it has to be competitive and it has to make sense somehow, right? And other things can add value. Like we were going to talk a little bit about, the chattels and fixtures, what's staying in if it's, for instance, a restaurant and there's a huge hood, sometimes those things can run up to, $50,000 if fully installed, so that's adding value to that business. You're not only getting the customer base, all the time and energy they've spent building the business, but you're getting, say, some of these features that'll help along the next person opening up a restaurant in the same location, right? Maybe the deep fryers are staying, the ovens, whatnot. So preparing the documents, gathering financial statements and tax returns dating back 3 or 4 years. Generally, we won't do that now because, like I say, COVID affected that a lot. I don't see anybody going back more than 2 years right now. And even that might be a little iffy for people. In addition, develop a list of equipment that is being sold with the business. So I always ask my clients, tell me what's included. Because, like, for instance, when I was doing my first few automotive, business sales, it's difficult. I don't know what's included. I can look around and I don't know that, these things are of value to put in the listing. So tell me what's of value. Oh, there's, a painting booth and there's 2 hoists and I don't know, I'm making stuff up, to do with the cars that, but tell me what's included in the business that'll show value that you're leaving with the sale of that business. What equipment is being sold along with it. Also create a list of contracts related to sales, transactions, and supplies, and dig up any relevant paperwork, such as your current lease. Create copies of these documents and distribute to financially qualified potential buyers. Now we can go and we can distribute this information, but we're going to talk a little bit about a non-disclosure in about 5 seconds after I finish this. Okay.
The document you have it print out?
For what?
Those things print out?
This printed out, what I'm reading right now? I don't have it printed out, but I can email to you whatever you need. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It's good to follow to see what you need.
Yeah.
Especially sale of business. Sometimes you forget to ask so many questions, right?
Yeah.
So,
Even,
sorry?
Those things, the document.
Yeah, this one? Yeah, for sure. So finding a buyer. Hello, how are you? Finding a buyer. So the sale of business, the other thing we want to be really mindful is that we know that, let's see, the market's real hot again now for residential resale. Things are selling within a week again, but sale of business takes longer. It just does. You're appealing to a way less pool of buyers. So you're going to find that, you definitely want to sign that 6 months or over contract when you're signing up sale of business. It's not something that's going to go very quickly for you. Okay. Once you have prospective buyers, here's how to keep the process moving along. Get 2 or 3 potential buyers in case initial deal falters. Like, that's tough as it is, but very often, if you have a couple, stay in touch with them. Find out what the potential buyer pre-qualifies for financing before giving out information about your business. So you want to find out, are they financially able to purchase this business? What are they getting? Are they getting a loan from Business Development Canada? Do they already have the money in hand? What is it? Have they run this kind of business before? Are they a strong buyer? Allow some room to negotiate. There will always be negotiation in a price of the sale business online. I rarely see sold over asking or, really, really close to the list price or bang on the list price. Sale of business almost always gets negotiated. Put agreements in writing, of course, and try to get the signed purchase agreement into escrow. So you may encounter the following documents after the sale: the bill of sale, which transfers the business assets to the buyer, the assignment of lease. Yeah. And the security agreement, which seller retain a lien on the business, right? In addition, the buyer may have to sign a non-compete agreement. So I'm just going to show that to you because it's really important. If you have a sale of business listed and you have people asking information about that business, you want to go and you want to get them to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Now, this isn't something that's listed on our MLS. I find our MLS is lacking a few things that we need. I know when I was talking about investment and lease properties, we don't have a guarantor application on our MLS. We should. We should also have a non-disclosure agreement as agents because we're sharing our clients' private information with other people who are potentially interested in the business. So the non-disclosure agreement basically covers a few things. It just says here that we, in consideration for access to information submitted to me, us, pertaining to this transaction. So I've requested information from, I don't know, this restaurant, and the restaurant is sharing with me the information for the agreement of purchase and sale. I agree to keep all information provided relating to the business and/or finances, marketing plans, discussions, and processes under development in strict confidence. Get a little initial there. And disclose this information solely to individuals that have signed a non-disclosure agreement with or who have expressed approval from the seller, either verbal or written, to receive this information. So I'm, as the buyer, probably going to share this information with my lawyer, perhaps my accountant, to see if this purchase makes sense for me at the end of the day. So I always make them sign the non-disclosure agreement. And that's just something I just created really quick there. But again, a document that we're missing on MLS. We should definitely have it up there. Okay. So sale of business listings. Okay. Selling the business, very different contractual agreements are necessary to transfer business assets. They aren't like real property because they can't contain guarantees of volume and existing client customer base demographics. These can't be addressed in a standard commercial real estate purchase document. Okay. The valuation parameters are different as well. A working business will have goodwill considerations in addition to existing contractual and possible supplier agreements, right? So it's just saying, it's very, very different. You got to think of it in a different realm. That's why I say, when you're selling a house, you have this property to sell. But when you're selling a business, there's really outside things that you have to think of, okay? So what's their profit and loss versus their cash flow, right? You want to make sure that the business is being profitable, that they're making money, that they're covering their overhead, they're covering their expenses, right? So you want to get spreadsheets of all their income and detailed listings of all the expenses. So very often we don't consider the expenses. I know I'm dealing with a purchase of a commercial right now, and I was talking to everybody and they're like, oh no, yeah, I just have the hydro and the thing, I don't pay for the water. And I said, what about the maintenance? Like, who does your snow removal? And he pulled out a bill for $5,000. And because it's pretty big property, like parking lot on the property. And I thought to myself, that's a huge bill. So $5,000 for the snow removal being missed in the contract. If I didn't know to ask for it, my client perhaps would be pretty angry when he got slapped with a $5,000 bill after the purchase, right? So what expenses are actually going to benefit the owner? An adjustment back to income for those owner benefit expenses that'll go away. And they won't necessarily be expenses to the new owner as well. It all depends on how they want to operate their property and what they want to continue doing. Maybe one spending a ton on gardening all the area and landscaping during the summer, and the other one decides to come and pave the whole area. So it all just depends from owner to owner what's going to happen. But you really have to stop and think about what is important to your buyer at the end of the day. So we talk a little bit about the strength of the lease. The strength of the lease is definitely something that's going to be important to your client, because you don't want them to come into that building and then realize that they can't renew because there was only 6 months left on that lease. And the owner doesn't want to renew because the owner wants to sell. So one of the first things I always ask for sale of business is, what is your lease? So very often commercial leases are done a little different from residential if you haven't seen them. And what'll happen is they'll say, a 5-year term with a 5+5 renewal term. So what does that mean? It means that you can have 5 years on your lease term. And even when that runs out, you have the right to renew another 5 years and another 5 years after that. That's sort of what they're guaranteeing, as long as you've been a good tenant and you've been paying your rent. And anybody who's dealt with any commercial landlords know that it's not like the landlord and tenant board. It's really cutthroat. You don't pay rent today, they can lock you out of the building tomorrow morning. So you have to be really, really careful with your clients. So if you have a buyer, a potential buyer for a business, how are we going to protect our client about purchasing of that business? What are we going to do to get them into that business? We want to ask them a couple of questions. I always like to talk about their history. So have you run this type of business before? If it's a restaurant, I want to know, have you run a restaurant before? So if they say, oh my God, yeah, I opened up, I had a restaurant for 10 years. You know, I closed it down because my business partner and I decided to part ways, but you know, I'm looking to open up another one. I definitely would say to my client then and to the person I'm purchasing from that, you know, my client would want a longer lease term because I'm confident. I want to know that I know that they know how to run a business and I'm putting them in this property and I want to make sure that they have the lease term there. Okay. But then very often we have these clients that say, I don't know, you know, I've never opened up a paint shop before and I really want to open one up. And I'm going to rent this space in this, you know, retail condo and you know, what can you do for me? I would definitely negotiate with that landlord in that sort of situation for that business because my client is a newbie. And it's not saying that they won't be successful, but I definitely want to make sure I'm protecting them at the end of the day. I want to maybe lock them into a year or 2 year. You find commercial doesn't like to see 1 year. They like to see a minimum of 2. Shorter lease term. Because what that does is if perhaps their business fails, they have the opportunity to not have so much lease term left. Because in commercial leases, you have to be mindful that it's not, like I said, like the landlord and tenant board, where you can just very easily get out of your term. If you're signing for 5 and your business fails after 1 year, you're still required to be paying the last 4 years. It's very, very serious. And those commercial landlords will definitely chase you for that sort of thing. Okay. So I have a sale of business, a sample agreement of purchase and sale. Okay. And it looks really similar to our agreement of purchase and sale. I'm just going to highlight my mouse here. So we're purchasing the property for our clients, right? So we're just going to pretend we're going to fill out this APS. And the front page is pretty standard. It's got the regular spots for the buyer and the seller. Okay. And the purchase price and the deposit and where it's going to, irrevocable. See, front page looks pretty much the same. The completion date when we want to complete it. And then this page looks the same, the title searches. Non-competition, I just want to go over this for a little bit, okay? So non-competition is really important for your clients, okay? Imagine that you go and you sell a restaurant and you want to sell the restaurant to me. I purchase this falafel restaurant off of you. And I spent $80,000. I'm all happy. I'm the new owner. I go in, I start making my falafels, and you open up across the street. Okay. Now you open up across the street. Everybody knows you because you've been in this location for 10 years. It's not much for them to cross the street to go to you instead of me. So now that client database that they promised me, that popularity to that restaurant, that cash flow I was looking for is not going to come my way because all my clients are going to make a left to go across the street instead of a right into my parking lot and not purchase falafels with me. Okay. So non-competition, we have to speak about this, not only in terms of proximity, but by time, because we also can't lock people in forever. So normally this non-competition clause reads seller and the undersigned, whoever the undersigned is, right? Whoever the buyer is, jointly and severally covenant not to carry on or be engaged in or concerned with either directly or indirectly in any manner whatsoever, including without limitation as a principal agent, partner, or shareholder, any business competitive with or similar to the business as presently carried on within a radius of. Okay, so we have to think what's a reasonable radius. You can't say 100 miles because that means that owner can't go hardly anywhere in the city probably that they live in. But you definitely want to say something within 10 kilometers. I would say 5-10 kilometers is probably reasonable of the premises for 36 months. I want to see for the next 3 years because my lease term, they've signed for 2 years. He might want to renew. I want to make sure my client has a good opportunity to have an up and running business and make himself, you know, someone known in the area before he has someone to compete with, before this person can come back into the area. Right? So I get asked that a lot, that people go, what do you mean non-competition? What does that mean? That's sort of the explanation of what that means. It's just making sure that the person, because a lot of people were doing that and we had to put in this clause, you know, it's just people like that out there where I sell you an automotive business that I have up and running. I make $100,000 and I open up a block away, and all my clients that have been coming to me for 20 years to fix their car, they'll definitely drive an extra block because they trust me. I have a rapport with them already. So non-competition, very important for your clients, for your buyer clients. Okay. Covenants by seller. So I'm just going to go over the parts that are different from our regular APS, so you guys are aware when you're filling it out. But again, if you guys go through this, it's one thing to sit and listen to training, but when you go into actual practice, when you go to do it in your daily, you realize that you're like, oh, I forgot what to do. I forgot what they're saying. So you can always call and ask me directly anytime if you're going over, especially commercial deals. They can get so tricky sometimes, and not everybody knows how to do them. So the seller covenants, it's covenants by seller. So the seller covenants, the assets are now and shall at the time of completion be owned by the seller, free and clear of all encumbrances, liens, charges, and no other person has now or shall at the time of closing have any interest. So super important, like we talked about, some of the assets within a commercial building can be worth a lot of money. So hoists, you know, I don't know how much a hoist is, but I'm going to say they're at least 20 to 30,000 each, right? A lot of the equipment they're using in restaurants are very expensive. It'd be terrible for the owner to say, yeah, sure, no problem. And then your client move into the premises and they realize that they've now somehow taken over this lease, or they're going to come after them for the equipment. And because the seller isn't paying for it anymore, maybe come in and rip out all the equipment because it's on a lease, or it's an encumbered chattel, right? So then we're going to go down to D. There is a good, valid, and subsisting lease of the premises for a term of 5 years at a monthly rental of, I don't know, $2,300, and expiring on the, I don't know, we're just going to say December 31st, 2023. Okay. Don't go for word what that lease is. Always ask for a copy of the lease. Okay. And then, of course, you're always going to put in the clauses that this offer is conditional on the landlord approving of switching the lease to the new person, because the landlord will have their own criteria to screen a commercial client. They'll want to see the strength of your business, what business you're running. If you're continuing the same business that the previous people were doing, you know, they might want, you know, proof of that to show with your business plan. I don't know, whatever they might do to show their lawyers that they're going to sign a lease with you, you might have to get approved by the lawyer. Okay. So you're going to put those details in there, but you're also going to ask for a hard cover copy of the lease. Okay. I'm going to go down here now. This is the regular signatures page where we sign and accept everything. We're used to seeing that page. And I just want to give you a quick glimpse. So the Schedule A, I threw in clauses for sale of business. The whole reason I don't have a kit in there is because of how cumbersome it is. It's just huge. So big document. So I'm just going to flick through it quickly. You guys can see there. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages of clauses. Okay. So I want to definitely caution you guys that if you are doing a sale of business and the office sends you this, you are to pick and choose which clauses are pertinent to your transaction. Because this is sort of something I've compiled over the years with everything in it that is possible between the different sales of businesses that I've done over the years. So like you can see at the beginning here, it says add for purchase of gas station. If you're not purchasing a gas station, you're going to want to take out all these clauses, because gas stations will have clauses like, the seller is at all time during the last 5 years passed all health and inspections by the government, because, the tanks and the pumps will get regularly inspected, making sure that they're working properly, because there's definitely a big risk factor there. There's also a huge environmental factor there. So they got definitely, they're watched a little bit more than, say, a restaurant sitting there. All underground petroleum storage tanks and pipes are cathodically insulated and protected and shall provide the buyer. So this is going on about the tanks that are stored underground. So you definitely don't want to use these sort of clauses if you're purchasing a restaurant, but I've put in there for gas station what I think you need, right? You're going to want to put in clauses that say that, this document is going to be reviewed by your lawyer. It's going to be reviewed by your client. So I would make the deal conditional on that for sure. You want to get an itemized list of all of the stock. Okay. So a lot of times we think about the chattels and fixtures because we do residential resale all day, every day, but we don't think about how much stock is worth at the end of the day. So if you get something like, for example, like an automotive shop, they might have, you know, upwards of $100,000 to $150,000 worth of stock sitting in their storage, you know, between tires and automotive parts and whatnot. There could be a lot in there. Same with the restaurant. A restaurant can have, you know, easily $40,000 of food on hand. You want to make sure that you're itemizing all that stock included with the sale to protect both parties. So it's going to help the seller. It's going to increase the value of that business listing, but it's also going to protect your buyer. So they're going to walk in and sure, they included the deep freezer, but now when they go in on the day of closing, it's completely empty. There's no stock included. So you want to make sure you think of all the angles when you're selling a business or buying a business. Yeah, so I just put tons and tons of clauses in here. Approval for, if it's a restaurant, you might want to think of approval for liquor license from the liquor license board. So they want to be LLBO, they want to serve, they're purchasing this restaurant. I'd make the sale conditional on it because they're going to have to put in their application. And just like I was talking about the OLG, if you're purchasing a convenience store and selling lottery tickets, you're going to have to be approved for your liquor license. And it's the same process. When we go and we apply for our RICO, we have to provide that police report, the police clearance, and apply for the liquor license as well. The city takes it pretty serious, right? Does anybody have any questions about this so far? No?
I have a question.
Sure.
So this is for the 502 is for the lease of business sale, right? Not with the property.
Today I'm focusing on
Okay.
Business. We're just purchasing a business, not the building.
Okay.
Right. So today I was just doing sale of business, which is 99% of the time in a lease premises. It's, you know, very rare you see the sale of business. Oh, I'm selling this Greek restaurant and the building it's in. Right. So I was just doing the business itself today.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's why I grabbed the 502.
Do we have the template already available in our MLS system or?
So, I mean, I go back and forth on this. I can talk to Vaheesan. I could put a template in. My hesitation to put templates in for commercial is because they're so different. And like, I mean, even I've now recently shared these clauses with the front desk. It's even shaky for me to just share these clauses freely because I kind of like to have a conversation with you guys and say, okay, you're doing a restaurant. Like, what clauses do we think we need and pick and choose? I can put one up there. I just am nervous that somebody's going to go in, click and, you know, say, hey, that was the clauses that were in there and they're unnecessary or not pertinent. You know what I mean? Like, it's just.
Yeah, create a mess. Yeah.
Not you three. You'd never do it. But I know there's agents out there who
No,
just
I know
like,
that.
click and send and they don't even read what they're sending. You know what I mean? To the other agent. And then you get the call like from the other agent going, what the heck did you send me? This has nothing to do with the deal that we're talking about. Like, you know, can you imagine if this one went for like with gas station clauses, right? And you're trying to buy a restaurant, the other agent would think that you know, what the heck is that agent smoking, right? So I'll talk to Vaheesan and I'll see if he wants me to put it.
No, but it's too complex. Better to have a one-on-one.
Yeah, I left complex things out, right? Like, you know, like commercial ones especially. There's some kits I purposely haven't put in our regular kits just because I'm like, I don't know. I put the commercial one in there for commercial building sale. Like if you're just buying a building, it's pretty standard. It's almost like residential resale, but you know, you do have to think about certain things like some environmental and whatnot. But again, it's not so crazy. Like businesses are just so different. Like every single business you sell is completely different. I've never sold two that are the same and needed the same clauses, right? So while we're talking about forms, though, I can show you guys some of the forms you need. I'm just going to go in here, log in real quick. Have any of you actually sold a business before? I want to hear about your experience.
I sold a medical building, but in my previous brokerage for 9.3 million.
Wow, that's awesome.
But the after deposit and everything, one of their partner died. So they fell through.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So
yeah.
were they able to, now here's the question, commercial is even more cutthroat than residential. Were they able to get a mutual release from that deal?
Yeah. Because we are the seller, so my seller was okay. He said, like, you don't want to waste time because
Oh, so your seller allowed them to release from the deal?
yeah, because they
On
died.
the
What can you
buying
do,
side.
right? So
That's amazing though. That's nice that your seller let them release, because a lot of people would say, I don't care. Like, this is your business plan. You got to close. You know what I mean?
no,
So,
we
but
gave
that's
them
crazy.
$400,000 deposit back. It was like a big deposit we had.
Wow,
Wow.
that's really, really nice of that guy. Because I mean, I've seen so many commercial guys, they don't give a crap what happens or what situation changes, that you're closing or not, right? So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I've dealt with the heritage buildings in Ajax, like certain buildings are
Protect
heritage
it.
building. Yeah,
Yeah.
heritage building protected. It's not a sale of business, but the owner leased out to somebody else,
Yep.
but we are buying the building. So I've learned a lot of things when you deal with the heritage building, right? We have to contact the city.
For anything you do. Yeah. To
Yeah,
the
yeah,
building.
anything we do, but then heritage has got much more things like they actually city will pay the owner for certain renovations because they wanted to maintain
Integrity of the
the
building.
culture and the integrity. Yeah. So
I know, I love it. I love hearing about things like that when they're not allowed to remodel or make it the face of the building
yeah,
look different because they've deemed it heritage for some reason and they're trying to preserve it, right? So
yeah.
yeah, that's why I absolutely love commercial. I really do, because everything is different and it's always a learning curve. Like, it's not just the same old. And I love learning new things every day. So, you get to go do your research and find out, what do I need to know about this building, or what do I need to know about this business, right? I did a dental clinic. It wasn't quite a dental clinic. These new hygiene shops. They're pretty trendy along the Danforth, you see. I put these ladies in on PAPE, and I had to learn a lot about the dental business, what kind of like zoning they needed, what kind of equipment they needed, looking into how they could remodel the building and stuff like that to fit all their little booths and everything. So, and even just the electrical, like they need a lot of electrical for like the chairs and the machinery they're using to clean the teeth and that. So they needed extra electrical put in, stuff like that. So yeah, very, very interesting, definitely. Okay, so we went over the agreement of purchase and sale. I'm just gonna go and show you a couple of different documents. I like to pick it up so you guys can see it once every now and then. Doesn't matter if you forget which forms to use, you can always ask me. We go into the 815. So normally we have working with a realtor. What they bring us for commercial clients is a very similar looking document, pretty much, all the same kind of content, but it's geared towards working with a commercial realtor. So what's the consumer relationship versus the client relationship versus the customer relationship, and who's representing who. But again, we're used to seeing the bottom of this. So, if they're seller or buyer, you're going to put the name of the brokerage and that they're representing or not representing your interests and get their signature at the bottom. Right. So that's just something different. The 502 is what we were just looking at for the agreement of purchase and sale. We can go for the 631. So we have our individual identification record that we normally fill out, but very often when people are purchasing businesses and commercial, they're doing it with their corporation information. So we can't fill that out on the regular identification record. There is a corporation identity record to fill out. So it looks a little different like this. Pretty much the same. We're filling out the property address and the broker, like our representative name, the date. But we're filling out the corporation information and what the corporation address is, what their principal interest is. And then we're doing the names of all the directors. Okay. I take it one step further because, just to show I've done my due diligence, if the director is John Smith, I then take an identification record and still fill out an identification record for John Smith. So the whole purpose of these identification records is that we have to make sure you are who you say you are. So when we do residential resale and we go to John Smith's house, John Smith can sign and we can realize 3 days later that was never John Smith sitting in his house. John Smith is in Europe somewhere and we've just sold his house on him. So we do identification records to say to verify those people are same thing. You're saying that you're the director of this corporation. Well, I want to see that, okay, John Smith's the director, but then I also want to see his ID, and I'm going to fill out an identification record for that as well. So you guys can still fill out the regular identification record, the FinTrack. Okay. And then
So I
you're
have a
going to
question.
go, sorry?
I have a question.
Sure.
So in corporation, so let's say you have 3 directors and 2 other people have a shares in it, but they're not directors.
Right.
Do you need their identification too, or?
No, so in the corporation, you just need whoever has the signing authority. So if you get their articles of incorporation, it'll say this is the director and they have signing authority. You don't need all the shareholders to sign for that business then, just whoever has signing authority on the business.
Okay, good to know.
Okay, and then we have the buyer representation agreement. So this is the commercial mandate for purchase. So this is, again, just like our regular BRA, but it's geared towards commercial and towards corporations. So you're doing between the business and you got the address and the buyer's name here, and what property type, geographic location. Again, it's pretty much all the same thing that's in our regular BRA. It's just logo different and more geared towards commercial, depending on whether there's a business name or whatnot. But this BRA is pretty much the same. It's not as different as the corporation identity is. So, do you guys have any questions for me? I do this. I think it's a fun one. I've only done this commercial once in this office now, in the 2 years I've been here. I'd like to see more commercial happen. I kind of want to start a commercial group, because the biggest, hardest thing I find with selling commercial property, and even in my years of experience, it's still a difficult thing, is the connection. There's not a huge, if your buyers are looking, there's not a huge pot to pick from on MLS. It's not the best resource. You really have to be well connected. A lot of these guys, CBRE guys, Colliers, what's the other one off the top of my head? I can't think of it. They like to keep in their commercial circle. Commercial realtors are kind of funny. If that's the only thing they do, they're kind of funny. They keep it to themselves. But doesn't mean that we can't do commercial, and it's another river of business for us, right? We have our clients. Not only can we sell your home, but you need to, get an office for your business, or you need to expand your commercial building. Of course we can do that. We're just because they're, Colliers and CBRE are under that umbrella. The biggest problem we have is the access, right? So we need to find a way to become really well connected with each other. Then there's lots of Facebook groups out there, lots of WhatsApp chats happening. But we really should start, like, anybody who's interested in doing commercial, or anybody have commercial business, we should be sharing with each other and trying to connect that way, because I think that's the biggest hiccup. Like, don't be afraid to go get the sale of business or the commercial building and sell it. But when you actually have it, what do you do with it? How do you market it well enough that it's going to get sold quickly? The buildings definitely will sell faster, because a lot of people are looking for buildings to purchase, but sale of business is a tricky one. That's why I say definitely get a longer contract. You're looking at something like 6 months or so, and then yeah, it's going to take a while to sell a business a lot of the times, unless it's something popular. If you have a franchises go pretty quickly, I find, but then you have the approval of the franchise to deal with as well. So you have to make sure that you have a really strong buyer for those kind of things, like next to impossible to buy a Tim Hortons, right? And stuff like that, the popular chains. So, but I encourage you guys to find what kind of commercial business your clients have and pick, because you want to keep yourself busy with everything. So aside from asking them, do you know anybody buying or selling? Are you buying or selling? Can I help you with any of your commercial needs? Right? Like I say, it can be daunting, but don't worry. No matter what they tell you, just take down the information, come to me, and we can talk about it and figure out how to get that part up and running for your clients. So
I think I have suggested that we should have a different group of commercial realtor, because we among ourselves have so much of business in us, but we have no connection. And also we need to streamline, like, how you're saying closet. So a couple of business like pizza store or some restaurant, their closets can be separated, have the file. People are feeling comfortable to go for it and ask questions. I think we're lacking, like we're not kind of organizing commercial. We're so focused on resale and everybody's doing whatever they're doing.
So the
I think we
biggest
need to
thing
come
is,
as a group.
where do we start? Like, I feel like nobody wants to see another WhatsApp group. Will everybody kill me if I start another WhatsApp group? I feel like everybody has 27 million WhatsApp groups and they're like, oh my God, I would love to.
Because
I would love
what
to.
I have realized with Colliers and all those people, they don't share their
They don't.
businesses with
They absolutely do
anybody.
not.
And
Nope.
it's a very closed circuit. If you think you're going to go and do business with them, they will not
No.
even return your call. I have
No.
tried many times.
Me too.
So when we all get together, we have enough resources among
Okay.
us. Even if we can do 4 or 5 business sale a year, like the building or whatever,
Yeah.
we will go forward. If you
Okay.
think you're going to depend on somebody else, it's not going to work.
No. So, okay, so I'll start. I was trying to think of a good creative way to do it, but I guess WhatsApp is the best way to start. But I was thinking that not only should we add ourselves from our brokerage, like say you regularly work with somebody at Home Life who does a lot of commercial and you've done some business with them in the past. We've got to try to expand it out just out of here because I don't know if we have enough commercial resources to kind of close all of our deals. Like I have a million clients looking too, I had one guy looking for a car wash. I needed an Indian grocery store in Guelph. I need these needs haven't been met yet because it's the connections. And like you say, these commercial guys don't want to help. So I'll start a WhatsApp group. We'll test it out. We'll see how it goes. But we need to figure out how to expand out and find out what other resources are out there for us.
And also we should have a central database for all of us commercial people in our brokerage in Excel sheet. This is what we have, group that we have this thing, we have a
Okay, I
restaurant,
could
we
do a
have
Google
this, we have
sheet.
this.
That's a really good idea.
So,
Okay.
because a lot of bigger brokerage, and I've been in contact with, they show me, our brokerage has this. So we know Shri is selling this thing. Like it's in front of my eyes. Somebody asked me, like you're talking about the golf. If something comes, sometimes we have these things, but we don't know that you're looking for it.
Yeah. The biggest thing with the Google Sheet is it's just not, everybody has to help maintain it and we have to go make sure what's been sold and what's expired because the best way to do searches is to do the brokerage search, to find out what's commercial. So here, actually, it's a really good thing. We have a little bit of time. Let me share the screen and go back here to Stratus. Like if we were to go into Stratus, and you say you're with a client and you want to see if anything's available, what I would do is I would just go search and then I would go to predefined search. Okay. And I would go to my brokerage history. Okay. And I would say, what do we have that's for sale or for lease or for sublease available right now within the brokerage that's commercial? And I click and I see that we have 10. Okay. I don't know what areas they are. So the safest thing to do is just go select all. Okay. Unless your client's specifically looking, Toronto, you could pick Toronto, but let's just click and see what we have in the brokerage. So in our entire brokerage, we have 10 commercial listings, for instance. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3 that are for lease. 1, 2 of them are sale of business. And then the rest looks like it's the purchase of a commercial building. Right. So say I had a client looking right now for sale of business. I click on it. Let's just see what's for sale here. So in Lincoln Street in Ajax, our agent Julia has a sale of business. Let's see what type of business it is. Great location, rental, 3650, including TMI. So it doesn't really say what the business is. It looks more like a lease takeover for this location.
It's a restaurant.
Sorry? Oh, it
It's a
is a restaurant.
restaurant.
Okay, yeah, hot from the oven. Yeah, I see that. It just, the picture was small. I thought it looked more like an office.
She
So
said,
yeah.
I think the description says it's a restaurant, but
Yeah. And then see, we can pick this other sale of business is 450,000 on Bailey Street in Pickering. Sale of business by our agent Mohan. And he has listed this sale of business without it's a sports and entertainment. Business for sale, new and used, general dealer, Omvic mechanic shop, basketball court, hall, banquet hall. So it looks like quite a big location here with a bunch of different things going on in it. So, that's the best. Like I say, Google Sheet is great because Google Sheet is constantly changing and all of us have access to every little change that is made. The thing is that someone has to maintain that sheet like up to date. The way to get the best up-to-date information is to do the brokerage search here. So if you're with your clients, just do a quick login and just go here to predefined search and do a brokerage history.
So this is good what's on MLS. So what I have come across in last 2 years with the business, The moment I say to my client that this is on MLS, no, I don't want to buy from MLS.
Oh,
Like,
okay. So the
So the
Google
problem
Sheet,
is, so what I'm talking
Mhm.
about Google is what is exclusive in on Google. Because a lot of people, I'm
exclusive
showing
listings.
dental clinic, I'm going to
Okay.
put an MLS. The guy
Okay.
says, no, I don't want MLS. I want to see if it's exclusive. Then I
Okay.
would come. So they come and see it. The
Okay.
process becomes faster, right?
So I say the two things I'll do tomorrow is I'll start a WhatsApp group because I really want to get this going because I have this big need. I have lots of clients asking me, and it's a difficult area even for me to close these things that I could be making good business off of. I've been looking for that in Indian, like a Asian grocery store for a year now in Kitchener and Guelph, right? So definitely I think it's a good idea, and exclusive listings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask everybody who joins our WhatsApp group to put any exclusive listings they have in there. Or we should maybe have a needs section, like what our needs are, and any
Yeah.
exclusive thing. Okay, I'll create it with those
And I
two.
can also help. If you want to do those Google sheet or whatever, I can help. Because you know what, I have a lot of connection, but sometimes I'll rather have a connection in my brokerage to close those deals because I rely on them. You can trust them because you know how the
Yeah,
commercial
I'll
is.
create it, and what I'll do is I'll share the link in the WhatsApp group once I create the WhatsApp group, and we'll start that all tomorrow. And we'll take it. If you guys have any suggestions how we can expand and do better, I'd love to hear it, and we can make it better for commercial definitely in this brokerage. I would love it. Perfect. Awesome. That was a really good session this evening, everyone. It was very nice seeing you all. I always love to do commercial because, you know, like I say, the residential is same old every day. So it's exciting. It's exciting. And there's lots of big, you know, exciting deals out there to be had if we get a good connection going. Like you said, $9 million building, that'll be a good commission, right? So it's not.
It was a bad luck. It was a bad luck for me. Like
No, it's
the guy
okay. Don't worry. Going forward,
But
you'll do bigger and
I
better.
learned a lot. So I was not able to close it, but I learned a lot because it's a first deal in the first year, 9.3 million. We have done it. We have killed it. But then the guy got killed too. Like I have not killed him.
my
Like, he got poor guy.
That's terrible though, right? That's terrible.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work in commercial. A lot of people don't realize, a lot of
You
business.
could work 6 months before closing
and
something.
also I'm in a whole big Toronto commercial group, but I never seen a deal gone through because people take information, send me the information, do this, nothing happened. Only thing somebody told me from one of the Gold Max, Remax or whatever, says they have a 300 agents and they do the commercial within, and it works. You have your thing, just sell it because you trust each other, and this is how it goes.
Okay. Sounds good. Tomorrow I'll be rolling that out. I'll put it out in the main chat. Anybody who wants to join, we'll start it up. And I'll create a Google Sheet then and create a link once we have the Google WhatsApp up and running.
Perfect.
Sounds good, everyone. All right. I will see you guys all next week, Tuesday morning, bright and early.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good weekend, everyone.